Hey y'all, it's Jessica from Sloppy Swatches. Today I have a look at the much awaited new Multichrome collection available now from Live Love Polish. This is the Scarab collection and it was sent to me for review. So this collection consists of 6 brand new true multichromes that do shift between at least 3 colors. I'm going to go ahead and drop my affiliate links down below. If you're interested, you can click through to purchase. It doesn't cost you any extra, but it does help support this channel. So I'm going to go ahead and jump right in with Red Sea. So this polish is described as a multichrome polish that shifts between shades of magenta, copper, and green. You can see them all peeking out in the bottle there. That's exactly what it looks like on the nail. So here's a quick look at that brush shot, and then I'll show you how Red Sea swatched on my natural nail. So here's a look at that first easy coat. This one does go on really smooth. These are really easy to work with. I didn't have any staining. I did find that they were a little bit sheer, so these are ones that you're going to have to build up a little bit. You could always use them over a black base to get the full color spectrum quicker. I'm going to go ahead and show you how they build up on their own. So there's a look at that first coat. It was a little bit sheer, but I had nice, pretty even coverage. I'm going to go ahead and show you how it builds up for me with that second coat. 2 coats is really close to being completely opaque. I found that this was pretty typical for all of the polishes in the collection, so it may be down to personal preference or application method, but I do have a little bit of visible nail line. I'm going to go ahead and show you how it built up for me with that third and final coat. So here's a quick look at that. 3 coats for sure brings this polish completely opaque. I do feel like it intensifies that shift a little bit as well, so I don't mind going in for that third coat. So that does complete it. I'm going to go ahead and show you what it looks like at an angle underneath my artificial lighting. I did have natural sunlight the day that I swatched these, but it just gave me that predominantly magenta shade, and I wanted to be able to show you guys the complete spectrum that this shifts to. So you can see I'm just moving my hand underneath my lamp here, and it looks completely different from every angle that the light hits it. So this is my final swatch photo at an angle under that same artificial lighting. So next up is Sahara, and this polish is described as a multichrome polish that shifts between shades of a red, copper, and green. So here we get more of the copper and kind of orange tones. It's still very warm. This is one of the more unique polishes of this collection, I feel like, and a really awesome formula. So there's a quick look at that brush shot, and then I'll show you how Sahara swatched on my natural nail. So here's a look at this first easy coat. You can see that this one is fairly pigmented. I did have maybe a little bit of brush stroking that you want to be mindful of. I like to just go down and do a center swipe down the center of the nail, and that pretty much takes care of it. They do mellow out a little bit as they dry as well. So I'm going to go ahead and let that dry, show you how it built up for me with that second coat. This is one of those polishes that I was easily able to get away with just 2 coats. I did feel like I had full opacity here and a ton of shifts. I'm going to go ahead and let that dry down and then show you how it shifted for me underneath my artificial lighting again. Here I'm just going to show you how it shifts really quickly at my original angle that I take my photos at, and then bring it through. I do have 2 lamps on each side, completely different. Even when filming, what it looks like on the camera is completely different when I'm seeing at my angle. So this is my final swatch photo at an angle under those same artificial lightings, and the next polish is Obelisk. So this one is my #1 top pick. I had a lot of people ask me what I was wearing during the unboxing video from Live Love Polish, and this is what it was. So this one is described as a multichrome polish that shifts between shades of green, purple, and blue. So very peacocky. There's a quick look at that brush shot, and then I'll show you how it swatched on my natural nail. So here's a look at that first coat. This one is fairly sheer. If you're not one that likes to go in for 3 coats, I would recommend maybe throwing down a black base for this one. It's incredibly shifty though and totally worth it. So I'm going to go ahead and let that dry and show you how it built up for me with that second coat. So here's a quick look at that. 2 coats, it does for sure amp up, especially that green shade here. I think I was seeing purple as I was swatching, just completely shifty. I did still have some visible nail lines. I'm going to go ahead and let that dry and show you how it built up for me with that third and final coat. And this one did for sure bring this polish completely opaque with no issues at all. Again, you just may want to be mindful of brush stroking, but they do mellow out pretty well on their own. So again, I'm going to show you how this looks like from an angle underneath my artificial lighting. So there's the predominant shift. I did get a lot of blues and teals, but then once you shift it underneath the lighting or even in different lighting sources or different angles, you're going to get a totally different vibe. So this one almost went all the way to magenta for me. Very beautiful. So this is my final swatch photo at an angle underneath that same artificial lighting. So next up is Oasis, and this is another just gorgeous, completely shifty polish. This one is described as a multi-chrome polish that shifts between shades of blue, purple, and magenta. So I would say the predominant shade here is that blue, and I did get a good amount of purple shifts with the copper or magenta hinting at very extreme angles. This one also had almost a little bit of a flakier finish for me, so I'm going to go ahead and show you how Oasis swatched on my natural nail. Here's a look at that first coat. Again, fairly sheer. That's something that I've come to expect from this collection, but it did go on nice and evenly. I didn't have any issues really with staining or anything like that. So I'm going to go ahead and let that dry and show you how it built up for me with that second coat. 2 coats does bring more coverage and more shift, but it was still just a little bit sheer for me. If you look down the stem of the polish brush, you can see all that shift there too, so really cool. You can still see a good bit of nail line there, so I am going to go ahead and show you what it looks like with that third and final coat, and it does bring this polish completely opaque. It's like magic, that third coat. So I did get a full spectrum of shift there. So once more, I'm going to take it at an angle underneath my artificial lighting. So this is the original pose or angle that I'm at when I take my photos, and then I'm just going to bring it through my lights, and you can see it goes all the way to that super gorgeous pink. I did mostly get purples and blues from this polish though. So this is my final swatch photo at an angle underneath that artificial lighting. So the next polish of the collection is Sphinx, and this one is described as a multi-chrome polish that shifts between shades of a teal, purple, and magenta. So these are maybe just a hint different from each other with different shifts. This one I did get predominantly that blue and purple with hints of magenta and maybe even copper at extreme angles. So here's a quick look at that brush on, and then I'll show you how Sphinx swatched on my natural nail. So here's a look at that first coat. Pretty much what we've come to expect. This first coat is fairly sheer, but we know it's going to build up pretty quickly on itself. So I'm going to go ahead and complete this coat, let it dry, and then show you how it built up for me with that second coat. So here's a look at that. It does add a little bit more depth, a little bit more intensity, and some more shifting, but it is still fairly sheer. So I'm going to go ahead and complete this second coat, let it dry, and then show you how it built up for me with that third and final coat. I am capping my tips here on the first or second coat just to make sure that I don't have any chipping or anything like that, but I do recommend just going in straight for that third coat. So here's a look at that. It does for sure bring this polish completely opaque. This one maybe felt a little bit more subdued than the others. I'm going to go ahead and show you what it looks like for me at an angle underneath my artificial lighting. So there's the original shift. You do get those deep, deep teal tones, but then underneath that lamp, it does bring all the way. You can see copper right around the edges. Super pretty. Very good, complex shift. So here is my final swatch photo at an angle underneath that same artificial lighting. And rounding out the collection today, we have Scarab, which is the namesake of the collection. This polish is described as a multi-chrome polish that shifts between shades of a purple, magenta, and copper. So this polish gave me predominantly those purple tones with a magenta at just very slight angles and then copper at the extreme angles. So here's a quick look at that brush shot, and then I'll show you how Scarab swatched on my natural nail. So here's a look at that first coat. This is another top pick for me. Actually, I really love these colors all together, and I love how they shift and play on the nail. One coat, it's fairly sheer. I'm going to go ahead, cap the tip, let that dry, and show you how it built up for me with that second coat. So here's a look at that second coat. It does add so much more of that shifty pigment. It did kind of even out that first coat as well, but it is a little bit sheer. So I'm going to go ahead and let this dry, complete it, and then show you how it built up for me with that third and final coat. So here's a look at my third and final coat of the Scarab collection. It does bring this polish completely opaque. This is a very, very deep, intense purple, and all the shifts are just as intense and lovely. It does look like there's some visible nail line left there. If you wanted to go in for a fourth coat, you totally could, but I don't feel like it's necessary. So here's Scarab at the original angle where I take my photos, and then I'm going to bring it all the way through my lamp so you can kind of see them there. Sorry about that, but it does go all the way to that orange copper tones, and I'm totally in love with it. So this is my final swatch photo at an angle underneath that same artificial lighting, and that does wrap up my swatch and review of the Scarab Multichrome collection available right now from Live Love Polish. I will leave all of my links down below. I also do have photos of these on my blog if you're interested at Sloppy Swatches, or you can also follow me on Instagram at Sloppy Swatches. So thank you guys so much for watching. I'll be back really soon with more polishes from Live Love Polish, and I'll see you guys next time.